Hey everyone, I'm John Child, Cruise Addicts, and who's here? Who's this? Hello, can I?
What's up, John?
and Don from EatSleepCruise.com. Wow, we're back again, and what are we talking about tonight, Don?
We brought this up last time we got to meet, and thanks, folks, for joining us. And folks were asking us about some tips we might have to save money on a cruise. So we figured, why not? Everyone likes to save some money. So we have some of our tested, tried and true ways that we save money. At least I know how I save money on a cruise, but I know you would save money too, right, John?
Yeah, very cheap.
It's economical. My wife says I'd say I'm economical.
Yes. What a wonderful word that is. So yes, that's actually how I look at it because, I mean, I'm kind of old school where, and I see people talk about this in the groups, kind of like, well, gosh, if I paid that, I could cruise 2 to 3 times, on the, potentially. That's the way I think it. And I know a lot of cruisers think that way. And well, first of all, obviously, thank you all for joining us. We've got plenty of people joining the chat. Don, thanks for being here and putting this together. Once again, we've got EatSleepCruise.com and Cruise Addicts combined together on this wonderful live stream, how to save money cruising. Very important. Obviously, with the economy the way it is, it's all about, we're going to give you tips to help you save on your next cruise. We put some great things together and we're going to go over it. But more importantly, we actually want to have you tell us what your tips are. Let's all work together. Let's learn together. No one knows everything and things change daily. And hopefully we'll have a great time moving forward, no matter what the economy does.
I agree. Yeah. So definitely make sure in the chat, let us know some of your tips, or if we say something, definitely let us know if those are things you've done before. And I liked what you said earlier, John. I'm always looking for ways to cruise more. That way, if I get a good deal or use some of these tips, then I just end up booking another cruise.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this before we went on live here. It's sometimes those hidden costs that you're not thinking about that can kind of sneak up on you that you think, oh, I got a great deal. But once you actually get that final bill, you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So it's those hidden things that you really have to focus on. And I know we have that in the list here. You got to really think about the overall picture. You don't want to get surprised at the end of the cruise. You thought you had a great deal, and then you get that final bill and you've got sticker shock.
Well, you're right, but we're gonna help you avoid that sticker shock. But you are right that you got to know what's included with your cruise. So that's always important, especially since I know we have folks who sail on all different types of cruise lines. Every cruise line's a little bit different as far as what the inclusions are. But why don't we want to get started? And we have a particular order, but of course, folks chime in, let us know in chat some of your tips. But we want to get started with what I think is personally one tip that we always live by.
Oh, you said, what's that now? Is it always tip you always live by?
Yeah, okay. This is the one tip that we always live by. So I don't know if we want to just go ahead and there as folks are coming into the chat.
Yeah. Oh, and I was just thinking, I wanted to let everybody know, hey, be sure to check in. I know we asked that. So many people are coming in right now. Great numbers. I really appreciate you all being here. But please check in. Let us know about your cruise that's coming up. I know Don has one coming up. I've got one coming up. We'd happy to talk about that. Let us know where you're cruising next. And of course, give those cruise tips to us. Share with everybody here in the room here. And of course, we'll start with number one here. And Don, do you want to bring that up?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do so. So this is one. And of course, people who know us live by this. Book your cruise early. I can't stress this enough, especially if you're like us and you like to go on the newer ships or some of the larger mega ships from the contemporary cruise lines. We're known to book cruises like over a year out, but if you can, 8 to 12 months is usually our recommendation. We literally had 2 people this past week in our community. One person's trying to book a cruise for February of 23, and another couple and their family trying to book something for April of 23. And I'm like, oh, well, April's not too bad, but February for me, I'm like, if I wanted to go on a cruise in February and it's October, I'd be stressing out. So booking early in our view, we always get a good deal. I can only think of one time, John, that we booked, again, about a year out, 10 months out, and the cruise actually got cheaper. Any other time we've done it and we've looked to compare prices, the prices have definitely gone up.
Yeah, and once upon a time I sold cruises kind of like to co-workers and stuff like that. So I got to see behind the counter to see exactly how the cruise, pricing really was. And it's fascinating. And it's exactly what you said. I'd sold a coworker a cruise almost a year out, like it's almost as early as they could, nothing fancy rate. And as that year went on, right, I just kept track of it. I monitored the rate because I was really curious, just like most people are, do they, because you see all, especially as a travel agent, you see all these specials coming up, specials on top of specials. And yeah, is the pricing good? Yeah, but it never was touched. That low price that I originally sold my coworker at the time, that client, never touched it. So she got a great deal just by booking 12 months out, and the whole year, even last minute specials, never came close to her great rate just by booking early. So yeah, it's a really big deal. And so definitely, if you can, go ahead and do that. But we're also I know we're going to tell you some other special things you can do to alleviate this, to still give you a good deal on top of it.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing about the booking early too, that you just mentioned, and this might, depending on which of these tips you follow, of course, these are all recommendations, right? Some, if you do all of them, you save the most money, but depending on your circumstances, some of these you might be able to do, and others you might not be able to employ just because of your life or whatever. But when you book early too, you get your pick of cabin. So if you're a particular person who definitely wants a cabin on a certain deck or in a certain location, midship, or like an aft balcony or whatever the case may be, that's when you have the greatest inventory. And like you just said, the probability of it going up is slim. Like I can think of it once. We've probably booked over 40 cruises, and I can only think of one time that the price actually went up. So you can also monitor those two until final payment as well. But I think, John, before we hop to the other one, we got a lot of people who are doing cruises. If we want to kind of maybe share some folks here, we got folks from Myrtle Beach, or folks from Maine. Folks going on river cruises, going on mega ships. A couple of shout outs before we hop on to the next one.
Yeah,
maybe?
Sure. I'll hand it over to you there.
Am I doing all the work tonight for once? No, I'm just kidding. So let's see. We got Tina from Facebook, Cruising Symphony of the Seas, November 12th. That's coming right around the corner. Hopefully you book that far in advance. Symphony of the Seas is a beautiful ship. We were on Wonder together at Sister Ship.
Yeah, and what a great time. Talk about a great time of year to cruise. If you can cruise in November, December in the Caribbean and it's not as long as it doesn't fall on a holiday like Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's, you're going to get some of the best rates the entire year.
Someone else also sailing. This must be around Thanksgiving, I would think, or right after Thanksgiving on Escape. So NCL Escape, we were on. Well, Escape is kind of part of the Breakaway Plus class, but much different than Encore, which I know we've sailed on too. So Pam over on Facebook, and then who else did I see? Oh, someone just got off the ship. Just got off Carnival Liberty, and they're looking for a cruise next year. Perfect. Well, this is
love Carnival Liberty.
Yeah, well, this is perfect for them. They're looking to cruise next year. They're already thinking ahead. So
yeah, very nice here. Look at
awesome. Some other folks. Kathy from Pittsburgh's checking in, and some other folks. But why don't we got a couple other questions too. I think we can get to a little bit later. A couple questions about what the differences, different booking ways to book. But why don't you take away? What's another? So book early if you can, 8 to 12 months in advance. What's another way to save money, John?
So you can actually time your booking with cruise line promotions. We know there's wave season, there's buy one, get one, 50% off, kids sail free, and of course perks. Maybe there's a free Wi-Fi, free drink package, free specialty dining. There's all these different things that can be tied into that price. So if that's something that you really want to save on, that might be the time to book. And yeah, maybe I know a lot of people, especially friends and family, and I'm sure people don't plan sometimes. They just all of a sudden the husband and wife or family has time off together and they're like, you know what, let's go on a cruise. And a lot of times it's 6 months or less, sometimes 3 months and less. So they can't always do that. But this is a perfect time to do those things, to do a promotion like that. And they're always doing promotions, some better than others. So that's where to, consult your travel agent or your planner, however you choose to book it.
Right. That's really important too, to think about when you look at those promotions. They do change. So for example, like Heidi and I just cruise, the two of us. So we don't really care about promotions that include maybe kids sail free, which some cruise lines do occasionally, right? But if you're a family of 4, kids sail free, you could save 25, 50% right there with a promotion like that. So just knowing what promotions are going on in the cruise line, and then we can talk about this. We'll talk about this a little bit later, right? Often you can kind of bundle whatever the cruise line's doing. with possibly other promotions that travel agents and other folks are utilizing. So definitely keep track of those promotions. And I sign up to all the emails. Do you have all the, I get more emails every day about cruise deals than probably anybody.
Yeah, we get quite a bit, and especially if you get, like, if you are that tied into that travel agent thing. But one thing I just wanted to touch on, kind of what you said, is I just want to reiterate it, is you actually can layer those deals. So you can have the perks, let's say the special promotion. Sometimes you get promotion, then you can tie that into maybe a senior discount, where you live discount, maybe a past guest discount. And so you can tie all these things in together, and that can bring overall price down quite a bit. So yeah, it's something to look into.
All right. So we can talk about that. We have some others too, but while you mentioned that, I thought it was a good time to bring up another tip we have, and it might also get to a question I think I saw in the chat about using a travel professional to help you book your cruise. I've been on a ton of cruises. John's been on a ton of cruises, but we still use travel professionals. At least I know we do, and I'm pretty sure you do too, right? To book things, because they also have an inside track to what's going on. But you can also, like you said, combine whatever the cruise line's doing with promotions they may do, like extra onboard credit, free gratuities, service charges, or other things. And I found that sometimes travel agents actually have group rates that are even cheaper than the advertised price on the cruise line's website.
Yeah, the group rates are really big, and I know we talked about it in the past, but it's so big that we should say it again. Group rates are a really big deal. So that's why you contact a travel professional. They have access to groups. A lot of times, let's say they're a Cruise Planners franchise, they have access usually to all the groups within the Cruise Planners franchise, and maybe even another network. So what is a group rate? A group rate is, so me and Don, we start a big group cruise a year ago. So we booked that, this kind of ties in when we first talked about booking early. Me and you created a group for our friends and family a year ago. And we took out 200 balcony cabins, 50 outside cabins, and 10 inside, whatever. So we have an allotment, right? Well, our friends and family booked up 80% of the balconies, most of the outside cabins, but none of the inside cabins. Well, now we're 3 months from the sailing date, let's say. So the group's winding down. Now all this inventory of those spaces that me and you have allotted to our group, we're actually going to have to sell it to the general public or anybody, because all these other agents can book people into that group. So that means that if you go through your agent, they can actually get you a price from a year out, 3 months, potentially 3 months before the sailing. So you got a great rate. Oh, by the way, we also have a casino credit. We have a robe. We also might have a cocktail party or a drink credit, or all kinds of other perks that you couldn't normally get, because it's just a great group cruise. Because those perks are what sells not only the good price, but also those perks help promote and market that group to all the customers. So I can't say enough about groups. If you want to save a bunch of money, contact a great travel professional that specializes in cruises, whoever they are, and then ask them about a group during your sailing period.
Yeah, that's a great point, because this is how we combo, and we talked about this, that sometimes you can use more of these tips than others, but we didn't have to put the deposit down. We were looking at doing something special for our anniversary. So September of 23, contacted one of our preferred travel partners. He was able to get us a group rate on Celebrity Beyond in the Mediterranean that was at least $500 or $600 less than what Celebrity was selling that for. Still pretty good rate, because it was about a year out, because we did this like August, September. Yeah. So September of next year, but his was even cheaper, and because he had a group for it, and he gave us, I want to say, like $400 of onboard credit. So it was a win-win. And with the group rate, we didn't have to put the deposit down or it was like reduced deposit. So we only had to put down, I don't want to lie, maybe $250 each or $200 each, which is usually reduced deposit for Celebrity. At least I know the cruise lines do cheaper ones, but that was a way of, we took advantage of the travel agent. We were a year out, and using him got us that group rate and extra onboard credit.
Yeah, I forgot to say about onboard credit, because our perks are so broad. I actually sold a group cruise one time for my wife's coworkers, and they actually let me pick the perks. And it's interesting.
That's
scary, but it's a lot of times it's an onboard credit, because it just returns that back to the customer and lets the customer choose to do what they want. all of a sudden you got a $400 onboard credit. I mean, it can really go a long ways for if you want a few extra drinks, if you want this, you want that, you want to book an excursion, you want a specialty dining. It can go a long ways rather than some things that you might not be able to utilize or all the customers might not want, So yeah,
right. And folks, most of our folks here are avid cruisers, but for those who may not so familiar, I know onboard credit, OBC, that's basically just, as John mentioned, money that you have on your account already when you board the ship. Normally, travel agents onboard credit can't be used till you board the ship. Cruise lines now, most of them let you use that onboard credit pre-cruise to purchase stuff, but usually the travel agents or travel professionals, theirs you can't. So just free money that you can use for especially dining, shopping at the shop,
yeah.
Drinks, as you mentioned. So yeah, that's another way of just having more value, because now they're giving you that basically money to use for whatever you'd like to use it for. So and there's other perks too they can give you as well.
Yeah, even sometimes they'll have your tips are covered, or you can use your onboard credit towards that, or both. It's just all about how, and that's why we'll go into that as well. But sometimes if you're flexible, you can just get amazing deals, like to touch on that. Let's say you go on a group cruise during like October in the Caribbean or November in the Caribbean, when it's a low season, right? But the ships need to get full. You can get some amazing rates, and all of a sudden you've got tons of perks. And and that same cruise in July on the same ship, same food, same everything is 2 to 3 times more, and no perks. So if you're flexible, and we're going to touch on that, you can do some amazing things. You get some amazing deals.
Definitely agree with you. So we will touch on that. So quick, while we're talking about travel agents, we had a question from Facebook about what's the difference between a PVP and booking a travel agent. And I'm going to go on a limb here. John, correct me if I'm wrong. PVP, preferred vacation planner?
I think it's personal vacation planner.
Personal.
I think that's Carnival. I think the Carnival brand. And
Okay.
and that was kind of revolutionary back in the day, I think, when they started selling in-house directly, because the travel agents are, it was usually outside sales. Like, basically all the travel agents are what sold the product. And then I think Carnival started having their PVP, or personal vacation planners, where they sold them directly. And I know I've seen some that have Facebook groups and so on and so forth, and they seem like they're almost like really are set up like a travel agency, but work for the company. And so the personal vacation planner basically is employed by the Carnival. And I guess there's other brands that have similar things, but I can't speak for all, because the arrangement situation, you might be totally different. You might just have a call center. But I think the understanding is the personal vacation planner does have like a relationship. And I know I just had one contact me the other day from Norwegian. So I think they have a similar model. But what the difference is one's employed by the cruise line. Travel agent would be independent, might have their own franchise, cruise planners, so on and so forth. And but either way, you can have a personal relationship with those potentially. And that's what's key, I think. I'm sure a travel agent themselves could actually, if Michael Consoli was here, he could tell us maybe some more details that I'm not thinking of. But I think, I've heard good things about both, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So just to clarify, thanks for the question. As John mentioned, those people, like cruise specialists, I think is what Norwegian calls them, or well, you said this is for Carnival. They work directly for the cruise line, so they're kind of a little bit more restricted as far as what promotions they may offer, because most likely they can only offer what the cruise line offers, whereas travel agents, as John mentioned, are independent, right? And they work for themselves, or they have partner agencies, host agencies, or conglomerates that they're part of that might be able to take advantage of things we're just talking about, like group rates or the additional perks that they can also then bundle with the cruise line. Whereas those who work directly for the cruise line, which we have used before, all cruise lines have now. We get calls from Norwegian, Princess, Royal Caribbean, from those folks, and I'm sure they do a great job. But they're part of the cruise line, so they might be more limited in what they can actually offer you.
Yeah, it just made me think of something else, obviously, because I kind of got tunnel vision thinking about the one brand. But yeah, if you're calling up and you're let's say you're open-minded about a premium cruise, they've actually the PVP through the company is going to be limited just talking about that one particular cruise line, whereas a travel agent might be able to say they can recommend other brands, other groups, rather than a single product. because nowadays you have so many competing brands where you might be able to get a similar experience on a similar product through a different cruise line that you were originally looking at, but save a whole bunch of money and maybe have a better time.
Yeah, I got tunnel vision too. I wasn't even thinking that, because normally when we talk to someone, we've already kind of decided on either the ship or the itinerary when we book. But that's right. Other folks out there, when you're probably planning a cruise, you may not know which cruise line you want to use. So obviously, going with a travel agent definitely broadens your horizons, gives you more options. We're usually just a little bit further ahead because Heidi's such an overplanner, right? Normally, when we reach out to our travel partner that we work with, we normally are like, oh, we already kind of have an idea of the ship, or like we want to do the med this time of year or whatever the case may be. So hopefully that answers folks' question. And either one is fine, but I think a travel agent probably just gives you a lot more options, right, John?
Yeah, perfect answer.
Wow, perfect. Look at that. Perfect answer. I wish my wife could hear you say that. I don't think I had a perfect answer.
It's perfect.
Perfect. So we talked about that. You mentioned this briefly, so let's bring this up again because I think this is uber important, is cruising during off times, right?
Yeah, and it's of course it varies through the different where you're going, where you're cruising. If you're in Europe, it has its own perimeters. If you're in the Caribbean, if you're in Alaska, so just to talk about the Caribbean, rule of thumb, especially I lived in Florida for forever. So the rule of thumb was when the kids are in school, the rates drop. So that's rule number one. Because that same ship, we talked about that earlier. Let's say you want to go on Oasis of the Seas when that was the newest thing. Now Wonder of the Seas, the newest ships are going to be top priced because the demand's so high. Everybody wants to go on the latest and the greatest thing. Well, let's say it's super expensive. If you're flexible, you can go on that same ship that in July at peak season will be much, much more affordable when the kids go back to school, even a week after, even the first week of September. When
right.
all the northern kids go back, because the whole country's competing, trying to go on that particular ship. There's only one ship in the whole world. So when you look at those rates, you'll see it just boom, they drop quite a bit. So if you're flexible, and you don't have kids, or if you want to bring your kids out of school, some parents choose to do that. That's of course a personal choice. If you want to pull your kids out of school, maybe it's a regional week off that other school systems in their country don't have. I know we have that nowadays. My daughter was off this past week in Georgia. So sometimes it gives you opportunities. You can get some great rates. So if you're flexible, you can go on an off season. We're talking 2 to 3 times. So if that same cruise is $1,000 a week, it could be 2 to 3 times as much per person in the high season.
Definitely agree. That's why when we just used to cruise a couple times a year, we always go in January for multiple reasons.
Yeah,
it's cold, but also January is the low season. Everyone just spent all their money in Christmas and the holidays, and we could always get pretty good deals cruising in January. And why not go to the Caribbean in January instead of stay up here in New England? But I think you also mentioned too, one thing you might want to consider for some of those seasonal ports, say like Alaska, you can always go what they call the shoulder, right? The first couple of weeks of the season, which for Alaska would be, used to say May, but now they start cruising like middle of April, all the way to the last couple of weeks, like September-ish, even into October now. The season's actually gotten longer. And our Alaska cruises, we've usually done the shoulder towards the end in September, gotten good deals. And we've always been very fortunate that the weather was pretty good and we get to do and see most of the things we want to do. So that's another thing to consider, even though those may be, kids may not be in school, but every region has kind of those shoulder months. The Med has it too, or Alaska. Canada, New England, we just did a Canada, New England cruise. That season's much smaller, but all those, you can usually, if you go early in the season or later in the season, get a better deal. And now you just need to be prepared. The weather might not be optimal, but we've always been lucky. But don't, bring that rain jacket, bring an extra layer of clothes or something just in case the weather is not optimal. Yeah,
and so what you're saying, I'm just going to interpret it like I'm just listening here.
Go for it.
So the bulk of the people want to go during these weeks, right? In Alaska, let's say it's June through August or something like that. And so if you went a month before, because the ships have to get up there, they relocate. Maybe the demand isn't as high there. Check those prices; it could be significantly lower during those shoulder seasons before and after that demand. And that pretty much goes with everywhere. So while you were talking, I was thinking about a European river cruise. My first 2 river cruises were in the Christmas market season. So that it's a small season, but I found out people were, when I did my research, the price was lower during the Christmas markets. The crowds were lower because there's only a few. The cruise lines, the European river cruises, only don't have their whole fleets cruising that time of year. So they have because the demand is less, but the price is less. But more importantly, you get to actually experience Europe during the Christmas market season, which is just phenomenal. I highly recommend everybody do it. But also the crowds are less. So you get to this, you're not going in the height of the season. Is the weather different? Of course. Is experience different? Yeah, but the sights are the same. The ship is the same. The experience is the same. It just might be a little bit cooler, but you get to experience something that you can't any other time of year. And on top of that, you get to save a lot of money because the cruise is actually more affordable than the high season, maybe in Europe. I think is May or April or something like that. I'm not sure. A river cruise on the Rhine, that same river cruise in the Rhine during high season is going to be potentially much more expensive.
Right.
And
when you do the mega ships too, the other benefit of going on the off times, like you said, there's less kids. Not that we don't like other people's kids, but they're fine.
You can say
it. I love your kid. It's great. And my nephew is great too. Everyone else's kids aren't, but I'm just kidding. But there's less just people in general on the ships. So these ships still always sail close to 80% capacity, even during the slow time. During the busy time, they're 100 plus double occupancy, right? Because they have families and things. But during the off times too, you can save some money, and it's usually not as busy. I can't guarantee it, but we've never had issues sailing on like Oasis class, Quantum class, or Breakaway Plus class in January, like getting reservations, places, going to shows. Whereas if you go in July, like you don't book everything day one when you board the ship, things can sell out quickly, right?
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's a totally different experience potentially during the high season and the low season. It not only cost you less, but your overall experience was better because there's not every third and fourth passenger cabin filled. That adds up on a ship that holds thousands of people.
It does. And people, it's always kind of confusing too. And I know I had to learn this coming in the industry. You always hear like, well, what's capacity? And the ships usually will advertise what the double capacity is, right? Because they sell cabins based on double occupancy. But a lot of those cabins can't hold 3 and 4 people. So in the summer, ships can be 120% capacity, which off its face, you'd be like, how is that possible? Well, it's because there's a lot of kids. So some of those rooms that would just be anticipating 2 people have 3 and 4. And that just makes it more difficult for everything, right? To do the attractions or go to the shows. So you get a little added benefit. But I do feel, at least maybe now, because we're kind of back to hopefully some normality, I do feel like people are taking time and taking advantage of some of these tips already. So maybe I don't want to guarantee, hey, go in January or first week in April or May on Alaska cruise. It won't be on the ship. There'll be other people on the ship too taking advantage of things too. So it's not a guarantee, but we've been fortunate taking those off time cruises, having I think a little fewer cruises than say if you went at the peak times.
Cool. Yeah, I totally agree. And I could talk all day about this. But before we continue, I just want to say one little thing here. Please follow us, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. Of course, if you haven't made a comment, check in, say hello. We really appreciate your support. If you're enjoying what we're doing here, like I said, give us a like, follow, subscribe. We really, really appreciate it. And more importantly, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Yes, I like that.
But thank you. This is my attempt, folks, for the thanks emoji.
No, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate everyone, and I always forget because I just love talking about this. But it does help. At Eat Sleep Cruise, at Cruise Addicts, all over social media. You can find us there. Subscribe, follow, like. It does help us out, so we can do more of these and make them more regular and help everyone, as we like to say, see the world one port at a time. You like that?
Yes, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
We leave off.
Yeah. Before we head on, I'm just seeing we have another tip in here about this would be something you kind of touched on quickly, but we might touch about this other military discounts. Always ask your travel professional about those.
It's huge.
Don't forget. those can be huge. Yeah. And first of all, thank you for your service. But yeah, I don't know personally, but do you know roughly how those work?
It's like a flat like 25%, 30%, I think. I don't want to be wrong with the percentage because I used to know better, but it's actually like a percentage rate. And I know Royal Caribbean has some for law enforcement, fire, police, EMS. I believe they like first responders. They had different rates. And of course, if you're 55 and older, there's a senior discount on pretty much every cruise line. I'm not there yet, catching up though. But it's you got to be 55 and older, and that's very significant. But I believe the military discount's actually quite a bit more. I think it's a little bit more. So yeah, really, really great, phenomenal discount, and a lot of times those can be combined with other discounts. So like we talked about, and that's why a good travel agent can tell you how to do that. Because let's just touch on that. If you just call up some stranger that you don't have a relationship with, you're putting your faith, especially in a large purchase, into whoever you're communicating with. But if you have a relationship with a great travel agent and say, this is what I'm looking for, because it's a unique product and there's multiple brands going after offering similar products nowadays. There's a lot of competition. So that's why that professional can tell you that. And they can actually, but when they look up the rates, one thing, like I've looked at it, we talked about the BOGO, we've talked about the perks, they might have all these different rates. Doesn't mean that's the lowest rate. It just means that those come with those perks. And are they discounted if you bought them a la carte? Usually, of course. But down at the bottom might be the basement rate. Like you just do that on your own because you're gonna go on and you're gonna buy it whatever way you want because maybe you really don't need free Wi-Fi. Maybe you don't really need it. The BOGO sounds great. It might have got you in the door, but is it the lowest rate available? If you call up a stranger, you're just putting their faith into them. So that trust that you have with a good travel professional that can give you the absolute best rate. Make sure you get all of your discounts. You live in a state that's got a special rate. You have a military discount. You have a past guest rate. All that information is plugged in, and then you get to a final number, and that the cruise line is going to discount. And you have to trust that whatever they tell you is going to be a great value for you and your family. That's why it's so big about relationships. It's not just a marketing ploy. You're making a large purchase with hopefully someone that you have a long-term relationship with that can suggest multiple products. That's an expert. So that's my speech on that.
But it's a good point because as you mentioned that he mentioned military discount, the Facebook users use military discounts, but there are other ones you mentioned: firefighters, EMT, law enforcement, like you or yourself. My good friend across the street is. It can't hurt to ask. Say, I think I remember Norwegian was doing promotions for teachers a couple of years ago. They might be doing it. I don't know personally, but it doesn't hurt to say, well, this is the professional services I do. Maybe there's a special rate or promotion. Sometimes people just skip even mentioning those things there too, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later too, how to leverage some other things that you have, potentially some rewards or maybe loyalty with cruise lines to get better deals. But one tip I want to make sure we don't get, because we have so many great comments and people checking in. Great. One thing I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about would be guaranteed cabins.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last time. So do you want to cover that for us?
Well, we can both cover it.
I don't want to be a hog.
I would just say,
I start talking, I can't stop.
The cruise we are going on, we have 3 cruises coming up this year. 2 of them were guaranteed cabin rates. We did a cruise on Disney Wish, July, guaranteed cabin, ended up getting an aft balcony cabin, which one of my favorite places, right? Awesome. Yeah, back.
Love them.
So,
love them.
Guaranteed cabins, folks don't know, is you're getting a guarantee. You're paying a lower fare for a particular class of cabin. I mentioned balcony. Normally, we would do a balcony guarantee. You just don't know where that cabin's going to be until a few weeks out from your sailing. So you take advantage of everything else we already talked about. It's lower rates. If you book a year in advance or whatever, it's going to be even lower. And the only thing you're sacrificing is picking the exact cabin number. We do it all the time. And knock on the cheap IKEA wood here, we've never had an issue. Sometimes you get an obstructed. We usually do it for balconies. Sometimes you get a partially obstructed view or obstructed view balcony. That's the roll of the die. But I don't know. Do you book guarantees, John?
Oh yeah, and I know we talked about it before. It's almost like $100 per person. When I was booking them regularly, it was at least $100 cheaper per person, like right from the top. And then sometimes you have this really, really expensive balcony category, right? And let's say it's like $8.99. You could book a guaranteed balcony for like $6.99. Because like you go into like a Royal Caribbean, it has all the different categories when you're trying to book it. Well, you couldn't. The cheapest balcony was like $8.99 per person or whatever it was at the time. This is like $6.99, so it's significant. And sometimes I remember looking at it. Sometimes you couldn't believe what you were seeing because they might not even have, like, it was so low. It was such a big difference just to let the cruise line. And just to clarify, you're letting the cruise line pick your cabin for you. So if you're flexible, it's all about flexibility. If you don't mind letting them pick it, you could be in the front, you could be in the back, you could be but it also opens you up for upgrades. And that's the way it was kind of sold to me, because people are so big on that. And of course, marketing, it's kind of a marketing thing, to be honest with you, but it's become a bigger thing nowadays. Yeah. But if you're flexible, you're going to potentially get a much higher category cabin. Maybe it's going to be the center of the ship on a higher deck, which is considered much more expensive. They can put you in anywhere. You can even go from an outside. I mean, there's potentially where they can put you like I said, can open you up for a lot of upgrades. So yeah, highly recommend it. Not only do you save money, but it might get some perks along the way to get a much more expensive cabin, especially if you booked it a year out.
Right. And thanks for that clarification. You said it. And it's also here for our folks. When we say guaranteed, a lot of the cruise lines now use language similar to what John just said, like, let us pick the cabin for you, or we choose for you, or something like that. Basically, when they're saying that, that's what we mean by guarantee. And you'll see the price of just doing some comparison pricing for some friends I mentioned for a cruise line. And right there is like, we pick it for you, or we choose for you, you pick your own. So when you let them choose, as John mentioned, you're saving money. $100 a person, could be more. It's depending when you book it, what the time is, and you're going to get at least that category. And sometimes you get lucky. Like I said, we've got aft balcony cabins, which are highly desirable. We've definitely gotten midship cabins.
These big, more square footage, right?
Yeah, those aft have bigger balcony, more square footage. We've put in. Really, I can't think of a room where we've done a guarantee that was not as good as the least we expected, if not better. And then to your other point about the bids, what we did years ago is we did an Alaska cruise, and the balconies were ridiculously priced. Even the guarantee, for us at least, it was like, oh wow. I mean, so we did. I don't want to lie. I think we did like an ocean view guarantee, and then when the bids came up, we bid and got a balcony, and I don't want to lie, I can't remember what you bid, but a couple $100 more a person. And we went with some friends who paid the flat out balcony price when they booked, and we definitely paid less than them to get a balcony, but that's because we did the ocean view guarantee. But then when those bids came up that you mentioned, which is one we don't have, but we'll do a part 2 about bid upgrades. But yeah, I think guarantees, in my opinion, letting them pick the cabin for you is usually no brainer, unless you have very specific requests. Like, you have to be in a certain part of the ship or have to be at a certain deck, because obviously they're going to put you wherever they can fit you.
And you want to talk about, like, first of all, I just want to specify something or point out something. Guaranteed cabins aren't available on every single sailing. So you don't go to your travel agent or your personal vacation planner and say, I want a balcony, I want a guaranteed cabin. Sometimes it's available just for inside. Sometimes it's just available for balconies or outside. Sometimes it's just not available at all on that ship, because if the demand is high enough, if it's close enough to sailing, that it just might not. It might be an option, or maybe that cruise line doesn't have it as an option. So it's not all the time thing. It's just a nice thing, the way to save money. And to touch on that, imagine if you were just being super cheap and you wanted to do a cruise, and and you booked a guaranteed inside because you just want to get on board. What a great deal that would be.
Right, and that's another good point too. So it's not, they may not always have it for every ship. They also may not have it for every cabin category. You know, I mentioned balcony. That's what we like balcony cabins. There were the days we would just do the inside, but now we're balcony people. So doing a guaranteed balcony, but a lot of cruise lines are not going to offer you like guaranteed suites. Or like the Haven on Norwegian. There's no guaranteed rate to get into the Haven.
Yeah, there's no guaranteed suite.
There's no guaranteed suite. So
call it out for a suite, period.
So it is only usually for certain ships or certain sailings, depending on, as John mentioned, capacity. But also, there's only it's probably like what, mostly inside ocean view and balcony, you would say?
Yeah, that's pretty much that from what I've seen. And did you know that the suites are actually, you know, the other cabins are module, inside, outside, and balcony. They're actually like slid in the ship, like a module pre-built, whereas most suite cabins are built just like a home on board the ship.
Oh, I did not.
Yeah,
I did not. So if you definitely want a suite, odds are you're not going to book a guarantee. You'll be able to pick yours, but maybe not. Maybe they'll give you a little discount if they choose, depending on some ships have a variety of suites, like Celebrity. I mentioned we're going on Celebrity Beyond. Celebrity Beyond, the Edge class has a variety of different suite categories, and maybe depending on when you book, they might have one for a particular category. But guarantees, if they're being offered, investigate them. Let the cruise line pick the cabin for you, and you save money.
Yeah, and maybe there are going to be more discounts in the future because back in the day there was very few suite categories, and now I think we can attest to that. There's just so much more. There's just massive areas of suites. So the potential for discounts. Because discounts mean sales, could always change. But I've personally never seen a guaranteed suite. But you know what? Could it happen? Sure.
It could.
There's nothing. Usually there's no discount. You can't put suite and discount together. At least from what I know. Now, hopefully Michael Consoli will tell us that we have him on, with us in the future. He can enlighten us. But I'd be surprised.
Right. It's like jumbo shrimp, right? It doesn't work.
It's kind of like a box seat at the Bucks game, it's like it's no discount, or what's the club level? No.
Right. Oh, I guarantee box seats at the Fenway Park here in Boston. Those are. So before we get on, we had a question from Facebook. Good, I think is a good question from Kathy. How do you find a reputable agent to work with? I'll give you my 2-second spiel, and then John. There's a lot of things you need to factor in when finding the right agency and individual to work with. You want to contact either one of us, we could always give you a few suggestions. But as John mentioned, it's about finding a relationship. So I work with a few different agencies, depending maybe on the cruise line we're going to go on or what we're going to do. If we're doing a group cruise, I might use one individual. If I'm just booking something Heidi and I, and we're going here, we might just go with this one person who's a personal friend of ours. So I think you definitely want to find, if you want a travel agent, go into some of those big websites. I won't name them. Like those people that they just work on volume and mass. You're not going to build a relationship. So maybe that's okay with you. Maybe you just want a third party independent person to represent in case you need it, and you're just looking to get the cheapest deal. But I think if people, what we look for, do they respond to your emails? Have they been on a lot of cruises? Do they seem knowledgeable about the cruise line or maybe the ships you're interested in? Do they have experience with them? All the agents we use go on more cruises than we do. I have one agent who's been on over 200 cruises, and not just shakedown cruises, not just the promotional ones, like legit, like week-long cruises. So those are the things I would look for. I don't know, Joe, what do you look for in the folks you work with?
Well, yeah, and also the cruise line, things have changed so much, and nowadays they have to become experts in each brand. And on top of that, they have CLIA designations. So the Cruise Line Industry Association actually has training. So they have a Cruise Line Industry Association training and different levels. Then they also have specialty levels and training, like almost like Carnival University or whatever it is. They have different levels within each brand. So finding an agent that specializes in cruises should be your goal. Step number one. Then how much training do they have in each brand that you're actually shopping for? Are they an expert in Carnival? Are they an expert in Holland America? Are they an expert with Viking Cruises? Are they expert with Royal Caribbean? Because when they talk to you, they're going to talk to you with a vast knowledge. They're going to know more than you could ever imagine, inside and out. They're going to know about the tours. They're going to know about the destinations. And that's what you want. You want a friend, like a friend. Maybe they're locally. Maybe you're okay dealing with one of the top agents in the country and talking to them over the phone because they're not in your state or around the corner. And that's a trade-off, but they hit you with the knowledge that they have. So it's that balance. But you really do want someone that is a specialist in cruises. They're going to monitor your rates. They're going to know all these things we talked about as far as knowledge. It's not just lip service. Things have changed so much with cruise travel that they actually specialize in each particular brand. So that's my recommendation. Is it easy to find? There's probably Google reviews. There's probably Facebook reviews on each of these brands' websites. It's very competitive, but I think the cream always rises to the top. So
good point. Social media is also the agents we use. I know personally have a social media presence, and they're posting things right, not just sales, but they're actually posting things about new ships coming out, or that they were on a ship or did a tour. So you can kind of vet folks too. As John mentioned, there's all these certifications and education that they need to have from the cruise lines and just CLIA in general. But go to social media. Are they active on social media? And if they are they going on cruises? Again, some of the folks we know always on social media, have a social media presence, are cruising and sharing stuff. So I get the sense that they actually like cruising. And that's another thing I look for too. Like, are these agents this is just like their 9 to 5, or do they actually like cruising as much as we do? Oh, I should say love, I guess. And we usually only work with folks that we know truly love cruising and travel, and you know that they're going to be there for you because they're invested in it too.
Yeah, and the good ones I've met are actually really passionate about it, because they have to be passionate about wanting travel, but more importantly, have to be passionate about customer service. Because who do you want to call it in the middle of the night when you're in Europe and need help or need advisement? Or more importantly, they're going to tell you exactly how to prepare before you leave on your trip to make sure you have the proper travel insurance, that where something goes bad and you need to be air flighted out of the Mediterranean, and you're going to get home safely, and you're going to get proper medical care, wherever that may be. It's there's so many different things, and you know what? It's all fun and games until it happens, right?
Well, right. So that's first thing. If your travel agent tells you that travel insurance isn't worth it, I'd look for a new travel professional. We always have travel insurance. We actually buy like a yearly plan, but also supplemental if it's a really big trip or I'm going to be gone for a long time. So little things like that too, that they can walk you through more than just, hey, I'm able to get you this deal. They might also have suggestions on excursions or maybe other things that they might help you get your dining reservations. They go that extra mile, as John mentioned. So I think hopefully, Kathy, that helps a little bit. It is tough because as John mentioned, it seems like every day there's more and more people in the travel industry.
Yeah, and it's just amazing when you find someone that's an expert in that particular brand. They'll do a deep dive and start talking about the special dishes and the sandwiches you have to have and the soup you need to have at this particular thing. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Do they talk about the cheese fountain on Carnival?
The cheese fountain? Oh, you're talking about the gravy.
Gravy fountain.
I wonder if that's still out there. The sauce, the sauce fountain on the Mardi Gras, Carnival Mardi Gras. Yeah, I hope that's still there. I'm going on the Carnival Celebration for the naming ceremony, and I really hope that they still have that in the deli there. I'm gonna take a picture. I know I've got to find a picture and put it up on our next one, our video or something. I know I have it.
That's a deep cut for folks who've been coming to some of our lives. John and I love to talk about food.
Yes.
And last time he dropped this.
First thing he said is pizza.
Yes, pizza. Yes. But apparently a gravy fountain on Carnival. I have not seen it personally, but.
So there's a question. If you're watching, and so many of you still are, we really appreciate it. Tell us where your favorite cruise line pizza is. If you can put it down in the comments, we really appreciate it. And if you love pizza, please give us a thumbs up and a heart because it touches. It's right here.
That's flight. So we're gonna take our food break for a minute to get some other tips, and I think a couple other questions. Them flight words, the best pizza at sea. I love to hear what people have to say.
Yeah, it's subjective because you'll see people say something, you're like, no, it's not. No.
Well, God, I'm trying. Well, I don't want to answer. I want to wait for a couple folks to answer before I give my opinion. So we'll hold on that. I know we had a question here. Well, Willie asked about this, so I'll get to this real quick, and then we can talk about some of the tips we have. And thanks again for all the questions. Keep them coming in comments. How much does your insurance cost? So there are several plans. We use Alonzia, and they have, I think, a couple different categories. Ours for the couple for Heidi and I is about $575. And don't quote me on all of the coverage, but it includes thousands of dollars of like travel delays, lost baggage, staying in hotel, things happen. We have an 800 number that we can call 24 hours for things. And then all the medical, as John was mentioning, like medical emergency services across the world, things like that. So it's a baseline plan. So it's always there, which I like. And then again, depending on like we've done, trips where we're gone for 2 or 3 weeks, I might say, hey, we're going for this. I want to add extra baggage loss coverage. And they can actually price out, oh, well, if you want to upgrade for that span, it's another $70 or whatever the price might be. So, but there are other folks we know who are digital nomads who also have similar type of travel insurance. So there are different products out there, but ours is $575. We've been doing it for years now. Knock on wood, never had to use it, but it's there. And I'm not worried if we miss our flight. I'm going to call my insurance company. If Heidi's always concerned, like we almost lost the bag in, was this summer? It was in Europe. Our bags, John, were like the last 2 bags to come out. I kid you not. And like they had already left. They had the transfer to the hotel had already left us, and the representative from the cruise line was there. And I'm like, then I saw them come like falling down. I was like, oh. But if they didn't show up, call the 800 number. You have coverage to go buy stuff. So there are more than just the ones we use with Alonzia. And like I said, it's $575. So travel insurance. Do you have a plan like that, or do you just go kind of?
So just to clarify, because I'm just hearing this for the first time. And I've heard that company is supposedly really the go-to company. So highly recommend that. But this is an annual plan that you buy. Is that what you're saying?
So instead of like when you buy a cruise, right? Usually like, an extra $75, you get the travel insurance for that trip. What the yearly plan does, we never have to call in advance. It covers any of our travel. If we have any of those hiccups or instances we need, medical, delayed flights, canceled flights, lost baggage, all those typical things travel insurance covers. The yearly plan basically covers up to a certain amount, but it's not per trip. So it doesn't matter. We don't have to call and say, hey, next week we're going on Celebrity Beyond, which is a couple weeks, or Disney Wish or whatever. It's just any travel's covered, but then you can also buy supplemental insurance on top of that for specific trips. If you're going to be going to, bucket list, going to Antarctica or whatever, right? For 2 weeks, and you make sure something happens, flights to Antarctica, wicked expensive. You can max out your benefits. You can even buy supplemental for specific trips. But yeah, it's a yearly fee, covers all your travel, and
that sounds amazing.
It is. I highly recommend it. If you do more than 3 or 4 trips a year, whether you're a retiree, cruise addict, or whatever, basically after 4 trips, it depending on what type of level of insurance you get, it's basically like 4 trips. So if you're doing more than 4 trips, look at these yearly plans. Again, depending on what coverage you want. Each plan has a little bit different what they covered, what their maximum payouts are. But yeah, it's a yearly plan. We've been doing it for at least 4 years now. That's
a great tip. And unfortunately, I've known people that have gotten hurt, and I've heard different things on our Facebook groups we have. And what I've found out is some people go on these cruises and they leave the country, for example, and almost all the trips you're leaving the country. And so here's a scenario. You leave the country and you get hurt and you have some type of insurance. But if you get seriously hurt where you need surgery, which is unfortunately happens quite a bit for a lot of people, they're going to stabilize you, but your insurance, your medical insurance that you have, whatever it is in the United States, is not carry over outside of the walls of this country, these borders of the United States. So you have to come back here potentially to have your insurance, your medical insurance cover you. So you need to have a policy, whatever it is, a travel insurance policy, to either cover your medical expenses overseas if you have something that has to be done immediately over there, or if you need to get, and some people also insist, like, I've got a cardiologist, I have a surgeon, I want to go to Boston University or whatever, or Atlanta or California, whatever, they might have a certain relationship with a surgeon in the United States that they want to be stabilized and come back here. You need to make sure that you have the insurance and, of course, be covered by your health insurance. You need to make sure you have a policy that will medically evacuate you quickly and properly to get you back to the United States to either cover your health insurance, and so on and so forth. So you have to think of those big picture things. You don't want to leave it to chance. It's yeah, unfortunately, people don't think about that until it's too late. And
right, and actually, so as asked for how to spell a company, I put the wrong link in. My bad. This is the Alonzo Travel link. I'm going to throw it in travel insurance company we use, but like you said, there are others to compare prices. But just to your point, if heaven forbid something happens at sea and they have to have one of those helicopters come pick you up, it's literally hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, and then to get an evacuation, like you're just not going to get flown back on a regular. You're not going to be in a normal plane. You're going to have to get a special medical evacuation plane to fly you back. I mean, if it's from the Caribbean to Miami, if it's from Europe to the New York City, I mean, we're talking major. It could be catastrophic. You literally need to have catastrophic medical insurance, on hand, because it's just that once out of a million chance that something goes bad, you need to be covered because, most of us aren't getting any younger, and you just don't know, regardless of age, if you're going to have a bad day and something awful is going to happen. So you need to cross those T's and dot those I's, because if it happens, it can just wipe you out.
Right. So that again, it's a tip. And it is a money-saving tip, right? Because if one of those things happen, you're paying out of pocket a lot more money than whatever the premium would be for those policies, whether it's a year-long policy or you just get a policy for your individual trip. So, of course, talk to your travel partner about it, or there are websites like insuremytrip.com. I think it's kind of like a clearinghouse where you can search for different policies, right? So, but I love our year-long policy, and I put the right link in there for folks there. It's Alonzia, I guess how you say it. I'm from Boston. I mispronounce things all the time. So
let's see here. I'm looking at some of the comments. How far are we on the different points here? Let's see where we are.
Like halfway through, and I know we're at an hour, so I think we're a couple more. We got some. If you want to give a couple of shout outs, a lot of people joining us. Kathy votes for the RC Royal Caribbean Pizza. Sorrento's. Sorrento's is not one of my personal favorites. It's not bad.
It was better. I think it was better the last time I was on Winter of the Seas. It was pretty good.
Huh?
It was better the last time I had it than I remembered. I think they'd upgraded it since I'd cruised previously, but it's not my favorite.
Fair enough. But thank you, Kathy, for checking in. Heidi loves Sorrento's. I know plenty of people like Sorrento's pizza.
It was not bad.
Yeah. That's not a ringing endorsement. So if other folks are joining us and catching it, we had an offhanded kind of poll who has the best pizza at sea, because John and I can't go alive without talking about food. So it's impromptu. We're not keeping records. There's no prize there's no trophy going out there.
We are two Italians that were born in the Northeast, right?
Huh?
We're both two Italians that were born in the Northeast.
Exactly. So inevitably food is the center.
That's why it's like, it's not New York style pizza. Forget about
it. Here's a question from Facebook a little while ago, so apologies getting to it now. Do you recommend the drink package? Is it worth it? I feel like them also fighting words, right? It's what's the best pizza at sea? Fighting words one. Second, is the drink package worth it? Like, classic question.
Should we end the live stream now? Right there, just like, okay.
And thing. What it is going to do, John, what's going to help me? We should do a live. We'll have people just talking about drink packages.
Yeah, it's that big of a deal. I mean, but yeah, it's fighting words too, because it's almost people are, I guess, how to put this properly. People are very, very passionate about the drink package. Either people love them and swear by them, and they buy them every cruise. It's just something they choose to do. And then there's other people that really go through the whole thing and look at the numbers. And I guess the quick answer, don't throw anything at me, is the numbers don't add up. So unless you're going to drive a lot, Well, no,
I would,
I, I, I mean,
I would
unless
put
are you
fast.
really going to drink that much a day? It's like 15 drinks a day per person because both people in the cabin have to buy it. So, are you really going to get your money's worth, or is it better to go a la carte? I know you've written plenty of articles, so that's my. I mean, I'm not an expert in it, but I, I don't know. But then again, but it's also depends. So here's the argument: what's included in the drink package? Because now they've changed it compared to the old school, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about. The new school is the premium package, or there's a value package. Or there's different levels. So that's where it gets a little tricky. If you get a package that includes like lattes and specialty coffees, like Starbucks type of coffees, and maybe it even includes Starbucks coffees, like our Norwegian Cruise Line, or um, and so on and so forth, and gelato, and I mean all these different things. So they have all these different add-ons, things that can make, like MSC has all these different packages. So yeah, I could be wrong. So I'll defer to you before people start throwing stuff at me.
Joseph has it right. We're gonna do a live. We'll do a whole show just on drink packages because I think there's so many ifs, and we are the ifs. This situation works. This maybe not. And you are right. We have articles on the drink packages for most major cruise lines. So we've had in the name of cruise research, we always test these things out. So when we bought the drink package. And here's our experience. So it's not all theoretical. It's like we've done it. We were doing whatever cruise, 7-day, 4-day, whatever it is, and we break all that down. So we'll hold there.
So can you give them an answer though?
What's up?
Can you give them an answer though? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but can you? Well, my gut was no, it wasn't worth it. But then I kind of complicated because I know things have changed so much in the last, I'd say, 5 years or so. I don't know.
We tend to save money getting a package most of the time. Most of the time we do. Have there been times we would have been better off going a la carte? Yes. That's why I said we need to talk about it because each cruise line, as you mentioned, include different things. And then it's about saving money. When do you buy the drink package? Do you go for one of those upgrades that includes a drink package, but also Wi-Fi and gratuities? Right? So we'll do a live, but in our experiences, most of the time we save money with a drink package. Most of the time, but not all.
So it depends. That's almost the answer. It depends.
Most of the time, but not all. It depends. Yes, I'm doing my politician impersonation, and it depends. But most of the time, we've actually saved money. But thanks for the question, and Joseph, we will do one about drink packages, and we'll focus on the major cruise lines because, I mean, some cruise lines have. I mean, MSC, no offense to them, has like 5 drink packages. It's just overwhelming. But most of them, to your point, have 1 or 2, which makes it much easier depending on what.
Before you cruise with it, like to figure out what you got.
Right, but I'll break out my abacus. We'll get a ledger. I'll have my Excel file open, and we'll do the numbers in another live, John and I.
I haven't heard abacus a lot.
Well, I always like to say.
I haven't heard that in a long time. You're showing your age there.
My age? Those are ancient. I never really used an abacus in school. I don't know how that even works.
I actually had an abacus growing up in school.
Thanks for the questions, comments, folks. Keep them coming. We had a question here about using Carnival Cruise gift cards. So maybe, John, I don't know. It's also from Joseph. I don't know. I don't have an experience. I don't know if this sounds right, but he uses the gift cards to buy stuff, and then I guess he get the gift cards at a discount, so that helps save money.
I think I've heard of that. Let's see what it says here. Use gift cards for Carnival Cruise. Do you use the credit cards that save on grocery stores to buy gift cards? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess basically like Target, if you use a Target credit card, right, you get 5% off. So if you went and bought Carnival gift cards there, you get them 5% off, and then use the gift cards to buy the cruise, you save 5%.
Somebody was talking to me about that particular thing. Yeah, that they do that. That they it just passes it along because they save kind of like reward points. And I think we're going to talk about that, aren't we?
Well, that's a pretty good segue, sure. But I guess that's another way. I had a family member, I think, did something similar for Disney World. They went and bought Disney gift cards using their credit card. They gave them, 5% off or whatever, and they paid for a Disney trip. So I guess not all cruise lines have gift cards. I know Carnival does. I think Hal does too, but I don't know if like Royal or Norwegian have gift cards you can buy.
I wonder if you could just use a gift card, period, and still charge it.
I guess you just go get like a Visa gift, like gift cards.
Yeah, $100 MasterCard card, I guess. I don't know.
So similarly, that is kind of similar to one of our tips we had here is like using rewards points to do that. So there are a couple different programs. I'll talk about one, and John can talk about some others. There are cruise lines have credit cards. So Norwegian, I know there's a MasterCard you can get. Royal Caribbean, I believe it's a Visa you can get. And when you use that card, like any credit card, you get points. We have used our Royal Caribbean card and have gone on at least 3 or 4 cruises for taxes and fees because we redeemed our rewards points and we did like a 3-day or a Navigator of the Seas. We've done like a lot of those weekend cruises because it takes less points to qualify for that. I want to say, I think it used to be 50,000 points or something like that. And you just you redeem it, you pay the taxes and fees, and then the cruise is essentially, 70-80% discounted because you're just paying the $100 or $150 taxes and fees per person, and then you got a ocean view, or you can save more points to get a balcony. So I would never tell someone to get a credit card. I'm not giving any financial advice. Where's our disclaimer? This isn't CNBC. I'm not giving any advice. I'm not telling you to go. Don Buchel is not telling you to go get a credit card, but there are rewards programs you might want to investigate. And like I said, we have personally gotten at least 3 or 4 free cruises by using a Royal Caribbean Visa card, which Royal Caribbean is the cruise line we sail the most with. It was the first cruise line we sail with. We do love a lot of cruises, but we just happened to, we got that 10 years ago, the credit card 10 years ago or whatever. So
I know there's people that they totally not game the system, but they utilize those rewards cards. They'll find some big bills that they can actually run through their credit card to build up their points. And there's whole websites. I know the pointsguy.com, and there's people that have websites and message boards and what's the best card, because it's to them, just like the other fella here, it's free money, 5 to 6%. It's a lot of money on thousands of dollars. And that's what we're talking about. So why not potentially fly for free and cruise for free just by being strategic about it and running your big bills that you're normally going to spend, and being disciplined about it, because if you can't be disciplined, you're going to be out of luck, right? With the credit cards, because but yeah, they're just strategic about it and they get free BJ. We have a BJ's card. So BJ's wholesale, and one of my coworkers talked about that. You get free groceries. But they also have, so each card's different, and of course the cruise line cards. We could do a show about that maybe in the future, because that's something we could learn about. Because I'm really not up on all these cards, because it is a little bit dizzying, because what every card's different, and I'm sure they change, and there might be different levels, but it's definitely something to look into. And if you're disciplined about it, you get a great chance to you buy your groceries through it, and maybe you can pay a big bills on it, and you just set it and forget it. And of course, pay it off regularly with the cash that you have anyway, and you get to cruise potentially for free or reduced. So great idea. And people are always, and it's really not costing you any much money. It's just being strategic about it.
Right. And I mentioned the cruise line, so we have Royal Caribbean, but there's also, just as John mentioned, there's tons of websites out there for all the other all the credit card companies like Chase or them. They have just travel reward cards where you can redeem them for not just cruises, but hotels, flights, or whatever. And that can help too. We do have a Southwest. We also have a Southwest credit card, and we've done tons of free flights because from where we live, it's from Providence or Boston. It's a quick hopper down to Orlando or to Fort Lauderdale to take these cruises. And that's one of the busier carriers up here. So again, you can use some of these rewards. Not telling you to go get a credit card. You gotta know your own financial stuff, but it is a thing to investigate, and it might not just be for the cruise. Maybe it's for the flights or the hotel, right?
Yeah, it's just I actually was listening to a podcast the other day, and people were they were having a whole discussion about how they're strategic about utilizing their cards and getting benefits, and they're traveling all around the world, and flights and hotels and all the travel arrangements. There's so much to it, but yeah, definitely something to look into. And then you combine it to everything else we've covered, and you get,
Right.
it's just amazing. And all of a sudden you can really stretch those dollars or those reward points even further and make the best of it.
So I know. So folks, again, thanks for all the questions and comments. Some of your tips have or reminding us of some other ways to save money. It's been really helpful. I know we've been at an hour, John. I think it's a good segue. We'll do one more, and then we'll have to do a part 2 for tips because I think it's also related to this. So again, rewards points could be a cruise line credit card, could be your regular credit card. Take advantage of getting gift cards for some cruise lines using groceries and getting discounts that too. The other thing too, right? Loyalty with the cruise line itself.
Oh yeah, and it's really huge because when you log in, like I said, when you go to a cruise line, and even when you deal with your travel agent, they want to know a few things we talked about. Are you a senior? Are you in the military? Are there any special rates that you qualify for? Also, what's your past guest number? Because that puts you in a certain tier. If you're, pinnacle, diamond, whatever the thing, gold, silver, whatever it might be, where are you? Because that's going to pull up special rates and a special price level that you may qualify for. And so yeah, you got to try that out because it's a built-in. A lot of times it's a built-in thing, and they usually also have a login to that area, like where it gives you special deals and just shows you the special deals that only you qualify for on that tier. So yeah, it's a whole other level.
Right.
Of rates.
Which can also be a double-edged sword because then what happens is you end up cruising more with one cruise line or another, and then it's sometimes tough to switch because you're like, oh, well, I don't have any status with cruise line X. So you feel like when we went on our first ever Disney cruise, we love Disney, but Disney Cruise Line, DCL fans out there know with their loyalty system, the higher you're up there, the earlier you get to make reservations, the earlier access you have to certain things. So when people like me who've never been on a cruise go to book something, everything's gone or mostly booked up because all the other folks who have status, who sailed multiple times with DCL, book it up, which is completely fair. Like we have more status as Royal Caribbean, so we get to take advantage sometimes of those kind of perks of being diamond that other folks don't have. So it is a catch-22, but you should always tell your travel agent, at least if you don't know your number, they can look it up for you too. But if you've been on, like I've only been on one Carnival cruise, but they still email me. I'm was it VIP? What is it?
A very important person, I think it is.
Yeah. So I'm
very important passenger. I'm not really sure.
A passenger is? Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a very important person, a very important passenger. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, yeah, it's a must do. And they can look up the numbers for you. I mean, I don't think anyone expects you to actually remember all these things. And of course, if you're a heavy cruiser, you're gonna have it right there when you log in for yourself. But yeah, great idea. Very important fun person. I think VIFP, is that what it is? Yeah. See, that's right. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate it.
And apparently, Brad, it stands for a very important fun person.
So, Brad, what level are you, and what are the perks? If you know off the top of your head, if you can share with us, what are the perks? Because people get so passionate about this. It's serious. I got free laundry. I got free internet. Now I'm a diamond with Royal Caribbean, so that's a big thing. And I had free 4 drinks a day credit. And then
that free package isn't worth it at that point. But that's a different line.
Yeah. So hopefully Brad will share us in, and we can do a whole show on this. And this is such a great show. I really appreciate it. We're having a great time. We're talking up a storm, but we're also learning a lot. And we're both learning and sharing with everybody else. Yeah. So thank you everybody for your input. Platinum's best perk is Express, Embark, and Debark. Yes, because that's like almost like faster the fun. You have to pay like $50 per person or $30 per person. But his status, you get right on, and it's literally like fast track right on board, boom. And a lot of times you're in a special area just for like suites and stuff, and it's like really, really nice. So you get on board and just hang out, and you're ahead of everybody. It's almost like the lightning lane on Disney World, but it's for the ship.
A lot of cruise lines now offer that, like their suites get on first, or like I said, you can buy a package. Royal has the key, which is has other stuff, but also similar to faster to the fun. So that is a nice part, getting priority embarkation and disembarkation. That's always cool. So, but you got to earn that. You earn those, right? That's why when people say with Diamond you get the drinks or with the platinum level, but you've been on those cruises with whatever brand you have loyalty with. So it is a nice benefit. So that's why sometimes people they just stick with that brand because they know that they have some, they're working towards those levels so they can get all those benefits.
And it's funny, I'm thinking, listen to this, and of course we've been on Viking quite a bit. It's a lot of this stuff is big ship problems, and
Sure.
big ship perks that don't apply to smaller cruise lines or smaller ships. And but it makes a world of a difference. And some people they want to get off as soon as possible. They want to have a full day in the let's say Port Miami or what have you. So it's all these things add up. It's just convenience, and at least it's optional. Especially like tours, I know they get on the same thing. I think maybe Brad can mention this. Sometimes, usually, they also have a special area. So if you're going to Coco Cay or if you're going to a private island like Carnival or whatever brand, you go to a special area and you get the first tender to the private island. So you have priority embarkation or priority getting off those tours. So really cool.
That is a good benefit of, especially at a tender port, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
You're either status because they sold it, or you're booking something direct with the cruise line because you do get that kind of priority. But listen, we got 2 show ideas already from the great community out here. We're gonna do drink packages.
Yeah,
and we're on the
Brad said, you get priority tender. And like I said, we've heard about some of the things. I mean, and the perks they've really expanded it. Now, like the last cruise we've had, sometimes they'll even ask what drinks we want because of our priorities, our status. Do we want water? Do we want Coca-Cola? And it's per person, and we get there, and these nice things are there. Sometimes there's a gift. Like I said, other cruise lines, free laundry service, which is wonderful. Sometimes it's drinks. Of course, there's repeater parties. We got to think about that. Sometimes there's tiered repeater parties, which is like a cocktail party with hors d'oeuvres and so on and so forth. And there's, of course, I started Cruise Addicts in 99, and they've talked about all these things are talked about in groups and forums all around the internet, and the nuances, and people are very, very passionate about all these things and how they've changed, and how they haven't. But I think they've actually improved in quite a bit. I think it's very significant. The cruise lines want to keep the repeaters. A lot of times, if you listen carefully, the cruise director will tell you who's on board, where they're from, and they'll usually say X number of people are repeat cruisers, and it's significant on a lot of the big Royal Caribbean and Carnival. It might be 60, 70% are repeat passengers. So they want to keep passionate cruisers, those fans of the brand, coming back over and over again. And that's one of the ways they do it, and they're constantly working on that.
Right, and so to that, and then I think maybe that'd be a good plot to, so if folks have any more questions, I think I'll double check to make sure we got all of them. But to that point too, some cruise lines will match your status. So MSC cruises, the program always changes, but if you've never sailed with MSC, or even if you have and you have status with another cruise line, let them know, contact them. They'll match the status of whatever. So if you're Diamond on Royal or Platinum on Carnival, whatever tier you are, Princess or whatever the case may be, they will match that and give you a similar level and whatever the benefits that they have there. And then Virgin just announced a similar type of program too, Virgin Voyages, where if you can join their program, and then they're going to do it's not as nice as MSC is, like a clear match for like a year or something, and then you have to go.
That's the only thing I did it back when I was Diamond, and so I was like the top tier, like Black Card or something. It was the perks were incredible, but it's only good for like a year. So you have to. So I think it's good for a year, right? And that just means you have to book within a year. So you can set it up, but I think you just have to keep it going. You have to book a cruise within 365 days. So
and then you get to keep. So if you keep cruising with MSC, you'll get to keep that level.
Yeah, I think so. You do the status match, right? And you set that up. There's a year window, and I think you have to book within that year. If you don't book within that year, I think it goes away. I think if you do, we have to read the fine print. I think it then continues on.
Okay. So that, and I don't know many other cruise lines that do that, but
That's revolutionary.
Yeah. So, but that's also worth us investigating. Maybe more will do that. And some of them roll out. I also asked, I said, Virgin just rolled out kind of late their loyalty program and what it includes. So you can go register. I also think they're doing something similar with the matching. But again, it's something a travel professional can tell you about. But I think having, using that loyalty or using reward points, like we mentioned, those are just kind of other alternative ways that you could save money to get free cruises, cheaper airfare, whatever the case may be. So, and I know we had more tips, John, but I think we can save some of them for part 2 of how to save money.
Yeah, I can just say, thank you all so much for your participation. Thank you for all the comments and suggestions and questions. I don't think we're able to get to it. We've had such a great time. I can really speak for both of us. We've had such a great time talking about and sharing tips and sharing your feedback. But if you could do us one last favor, please give us a like. Please give us a thumbs up. Please give us a subscribe. We really appreciate it. And we'll plan on revisiting all this stuff. We're going to be looking at your comments. Anything we didn't get to today, we'll incorporate that in our next live stream. And we hope to do this more and more often. And with your help and support, with those likes and subscribes, we'll keep doing it. And thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Everything John said is. Yeah. But of course, I'm Don from Eat Sleep Cruise, and that's John from CruiseX, in case you don't know. But as he said, like, subscribe, follow us on social, and always feel free to reach out to us even when we're not doing lives, right, John? You can hit us up on social media if you have a question or a tip to tell us. Let us know. We'd love to engage with you anytime, not just during lives.
Yeah, we've got so many cruises coming up. I'm going to Norwegian Prima, the first inaugural out of Galveston. I think it's October 27th. Then I'm going to be on the Carnival Celebration naming ceremony. Then we're going to actually be cruising on the Carnival Celebration. And then we're going to the MSC is having an inaugural in New York City. And so excited about that. So, and I know, Don, you have some cruises coming up.
We do. We just got off of Prima in New York. We'll talk about that once you go on it. We'll do a show about that because I know we touched on it last time we met, but I want you to experience it. And we are also going to check out Celebrity Beyond, which came out earlier this year, but is making its U.S. debut. So we're going to be on that in November and a couple other things. We'll go on Celebration as well. So lots of great cruises. We'll hopefully bring you guys some great content from those trips, either live or, of course, on social. Follow John or I for our trips. But then we'd love to get some stuff done on the ships, but it's just the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this. We've actually bit cruise together several times now, and it's always fun. But yeah, we always have good intentions. So we're going to go live, and we're going to do this, and it just never works out good. I think the cruise lines have kind of throttled back some of that internet as far as the live streaming. I think because so many people are doing social. I mean, those plans have all changed and stuff like that. But the reason why I bring it up and talk about what we're doing is we want you to look at our brands, look at our social media, and our websites, because we're having this coverage for you. I know we work really, really hard to bring you some of this stuff firsthand. It's what motivates us to work hard and have you all join us here. But that's what we have on deck as far as some of the coverage we're bringing you soon, on top of breaking news.
Of course, all that and more. So yeah, thanks again, everyone, for sticking with us. And John, last word for you, John.
No, thank you all for being here. Like I said, we keep saying it. Thank you, Don. And until we meet again, be safe and happy cruising, everyone.
Happy cruising.